Let's talk about the Leica 2870 compared to the Sigma 2870. That has been around for a while, and I thought, why not compare them if you're on the budget, or if you want to look for alternatives, or if you want to know if it's worth getting the Leica option. This is the video for you. This became the shortest, more compact, smallest zoom lens for Leica L-mount, and it to me became a great option as compared to the 2470 that I had before that was bigger, heavier for 4mm. You can go check my video that I made reviewing the lens itself up here, or you can go check the other video that I made recently where I shot a wedding with this 2470 up here. The weight of the Leica lens is 572 grams compared to 470 grams for the Sigma counterpart. That is a difference of 102 grams. To some, this is not going to be a big difference. To me, it is a huge difference. I put it on my SL3S and I did notice that it was not as front heavy as the 2870. The 2870 is already almost 300 grams less than the 2470. So if you're someone that is looking exclusively for a lightweight option, the Sigma lens is the option for you. They have the same filter thread size of 67mm. They both have a maximum aperture of f2.8 and a minimum aperture of f22. I'm going to test the sharpness of those apertures in a moment. They both have the same minimum focusing distance of 19 centimeters at 28mm and 38 centimeters when you're zooming at 70mm. In terms of size, there is a difference of 0.5 centimeters between the two. The Sigma is a little shorter with 101.5mm compared to 102mm for the Leica 2870. One big difference between the two is the build quality. The Leica lens is made of metal all around. Inside out, it is a great lens. It feels sturdy. The Sigma 2870 though is made of plastic and rubber, and you can feel that when you take it in your hands. It is still a very, very good quality lens. It feels premium, but it's not as premium as the Leica offering that is entirely made of metal. Now, the fact that it's not made of metal also contributes to the fact that it weighs over 100 grams less than the Leica lens. One thing that I always loved about Leica lenses though is the fact that they write the focal length that you're on right here, very thick, very bold, and you see it right away. When you're shooting, you look and at a glance you can see you're at 35, 28, 50, 70 and so forth. Sigma is not as bold, you can see it, but it's very, very tiny. Not a big deal, but it's a detail, and sometimes details do make a difference. These are both weather sealed, weather resistant, which basically means that you can go out when it's dusty and or humid without the fear of getting, particles or humidity inside your lens, inside your body, on the sensor and so forth. They were both made in Japan. So the Leica lens is not made in Germany, like many of their zoom lenses that are a little cheaper, but made in Japan comes with a quality label. It's actually very good and very premium, and I personally appreciate when the lens is made in Japan. Now let's talk about the price, and that is quite a difference. The Sigma lens costs around 800 euro, give or take, depending where you buy it, from which country and so forth, wherein the Leica lens costs 1,950. That is 2.5 times the price of the Sigma offering. What that means is you could, for example, get a 16 to 28 mil from Sigma and a 28 to 70 for the same price as you would pay for this Leica lens, or even a little cheaper maybe. And that basically means that you need to see which is more important to you. Do you have the budget? You are going to get more premium build quality, and it's a Leica lens, so it comes with the price if you get the Leica offering. But if you get the Sigma, it will allow you to get very similar results, and I'll tell you more about the image quality in a second. For a fraction of the price. So here we have the Leica 28 and at f4, and the first thing you're gonna notice at f2.8 is a lot of vignettes on the sides as compared to f4. You see here how it gets darker as you go. Same on the other side. So that's the first thing, a little bit of vignette when you're shooting at f2.8. And in terms of sharpness, you can see here how it is really, really soft. For example, the 6, 7, 8, 9 here, they're very soft compared to f4, where they're way better. Now, f4 isn't perfectly sharp yet. You can still see that it's a little soft on the edges here, but it is much better than f2.8. And that's all around the image. Now, at the center, you can tell that even here, this 4, for example, is sharper on the f4 aperture compared to f2.8. Now, if I was to compare f4 f4 to f5.6 for 28 millimeters, you can see that it is already better. Like even this, for example, the 10 here, at f5.6, it becomes perfectly sharp. Same for the triangles that you see here, they are sharper at f5.6. And it is quite a difference on the edges. So this lens really becomes sharp. If you want to use it sharp, it will become sharp at f5.6. Let's now compare the Sigma at 28mm between f2.8 and f4. And the difference is very similar to the Leica lens. I mean, this is very, very soft on the edges. For example, these lines here, you can see at f4 how it becomes better, but even at f4, it is not sharp yet really. For example, the 9 here, you can see it between the 6 and the 9, there is a difference of sharpness right here. Even at the bottom here, you can see the triangle here, the white is bleeding a little bit into the black. And that shows you that besides the vignettes, you can also see the difference here between the two. There is quite a noticeable vignette at f2.8 for this Sigma lens. Once again, as I said earlier, between f4 and f5.6, you will notice a big improvement between the two. Now, for example, here, these triangles up here are way sharper at f5.6. This is basically the sweet spot of these lenses, both Sigma and Leica, but you can see here at f4 that it is still very, very soft for this Sigma lens. At the center though, everything looks pretty sharp, so nothing to say on that regard. But yeah, if you want this lens to be sharp, you really have to close it down to f5.6. I wanted to do the same thing at 70mm to see if there was a big difference. Now, I noticed that the vignette is not as intense when you're shooting at 70mm than at 28, and the image quality is very similar. It is soft. This is the Leica lens, and you can see that, for example, the 9 here is way sharper at f4, and it is basically the same thing as we've seen at 28mm. When you look at the center of the image, though, it looks pretty okay. You can still see that these lines here are sharper at f4 than f2.8, even at the center, including this logo here. I find it sharper at f4, and we're talking center of the image. So the lens is pretty soft at f2.8, and I think it starts to be usable at f4, and f5.6 would be its sweet spot. Same for the Sigma lens. Let's now take a look at both Leica and Sigma at 28mm f2.8 side by side. On the left, we got the Leica, on the right, we got the Sigma. And to be honest, it is very similar. Now, I noticed that Sigma has a little bit more, it's a little softer here on these lines. For example, even on the 6 to 9 here, it looks a little softer. It is hard to tell them apart. As I was telling you, the image quality of the two are very, very similar. If you take a look here at the center, again, they both not so sharp, but I find Sigma to be maybe a little bit sharper, possibly. It's hard to tell. It really is hard to tell them apart. They look very similar, the two of them. In terms of autofocusing speed, I haven't noticed that much of a difference between the two. They both deliver great speed, great precision. It is hard to tell them apart, as you can tell on this video showing you the focusing in studio. And I went outdoors, I tried them both side by side, tried to see which one does better and so forth. And honestly, they're very, very similar. I hope this review gave you a more comprehensive idea as to which lens is best for you, for your setup, for your gear, for what you need. And let me know in the comment section below if you would purchase the Leica lens or the Sigma, and for what reason. What would make you choose one over the other? I see you in my next video. Take care, keep taking great photos, and I see you very soon. Cheers.